Hi everyone, I'm Kristin from respectfulmom.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today I wanted to talk about labeling. And this is a topic I love to read about, love to think about, love to talk about, because every time it gives me new perspective and I feel like I can do better with my monitoring my labeling thoughts. And at first, we as parents were like, oh gosh, I don't label my child at all. No. But then I always invite parents and myself to dig a bit deeper. The thing is, all of us will label our children at some point in some way. And not only our children, but our environment, ourselves, the people around us. It's really just how the brain works. And we need to be mindful of that, especially when it comes to our children. So we all know that negative labels is not the way to go. You know, you're so lazy, you're such a brat, forgetful, wandering mind, naughty, a bad listener. Active is a label that is kind of has become a negative label, I would say. But what always gets my head thinking and spinning is the positive, encouraging labels that are equally as limiting, right? So that's something like, good. She's always so good. She's so quiet. You know, you're always such a good boy. Good eater and of course a bad eater. Super organized. You're always so organized. You're so tidy about school. Straight A student, loves to learn. But the reality is that it doesn't really matter if it's a negative label or if it's a well-meant, positive, meant to be encouraging label. Labels are always limiting. And this is what happens a lot of the time when you have siblings. You put each sibling in a separate category. It's almost like you want to pinpoint their traits or amplify their strengths. But what it actually does is that it limits each child. And one of the reasons why I love this topic is that when I talk about this with parents, with friends, with my family, you start realizing that everyone has a story. A parent shared with me, oh gosh, I relate to this so much. I was always told by my parents and the people around me, oh, you're so good, you're so sensible, you always do what's right, you're such a good girl. And then she was reflecting on that and saying, well, actually, I don't know, maybe I would have gone on that backpacking trip with all my girlfriends that time. But there was something in me that told me, well, I'm the good girl and I'm so sensible, this is too adventurous for me. Maybe I would have gone bungee jumping. Labels are so general and they truly do not do our dynamic characters justice. And the same goes for our children, our ever-changing, ever-growing children. And here's a trick I do to really try to keep me on the right side of the of the line. So, for example, if I will, think of a labeling thought and something that I would say about my children, I would say something like, for example, my 1-year-old boy, say something like, oh, he is so calm. He's such a quiet, calm boy for now. I will try to add for now. This always gives my brain, and it also gives the universe and them, my children, a chance to change. And it's almost like as if I'm expecting them to change. And this is the key reframing exercise that will truly help us move past and just be a bit more open to however our children are and what they will become, and give them a chance to change and grow beyond labels. Because let's say we do have a straight A student on our hands. 11-year-old boy, he's always been on top of his class. Of course you got an A, you always get A's. You're such a good student, all these things. So this little boy has heard that all his life. And then something happens. Maybe the following year is not really that easy. Something comes up. He's having a hard time, or he's not doing as well as he was. This is where it really gets serious, because this child will feel like they are failing. They're failing their label, they're failing themselves. That shouldn't be like this. They're failing their parents. There's something wrong with me. I should be getting A's. This is my value. So we want to create an environment where our children can truly be who they are. We want to send the message that life changes, and we will change with it. If we do this, we're able to give our child a valuable gift. We take off some of that external pressure that does not really help them at all. Because we don't want our children to grow up believing that the labels XYZ is what define them. We need to be mindful of keeping their space open, being ready for them to change. I heard an incredible story on this topic. A voice tutor told me that her new students were having problem really singing loudly or really getting that voice across the room, right? Singing to the back row, as they say. And she could see it was an emotional problem. It wasn't a technique. It wasn't in their technique, their singing technique. It was an emotional problem. When she started digging and started asking some questions, all of these students had one thing in common. When they were growing up, they were told to lower their voices. They were shamed or punished, or they got negative feedback for being too loud. And she was dealing with adult students that were carrying this subconsciously. And all of a sudden there's this light bulb moment. Oh my gosh, this is what I've been having to deal with for all my life. You know, I've had problems raising my hands or in school, talking over my class, or standing in front of people, or singing loudly, because loud was something that they had received so much negative feedback. Labels can truly shape us. And so many of us are still figuring out how to release old labels off our shoulders, not always feel the pressure to live up to a label, and just become who we truly are.